Hi, everybody. I'm a raging papist. Thanks for joining me. I've been doing some thinking about why my focus is on Western civilization and what we can do about it. And this is going to be going in both the reactionary playlist and the Christian playlist. And essentially, what I've been thinking about why I hate the left is this: the left has systematically robbed us as people, us as human beings, us as Westerners, us as whites, us as Christians, of everything. And I make no bones about being uh, quite partisan. I am a rightist. I don't like the left. I don't want to work with them. I don't want to associate with them. I tend to cut them out of my life as well as I am able. And the reason is because there's nothing really to discuss. I mean, I don't blame leftists necessarily for their beliefs and their politics. I chalk most of it up to misinformation, going with the narrative, the indoctrination, all of that sort of thing. But I try to stay away from them because it's gotten so bad in our world that you know how they damage you. Um, but we were robbed. We were robbed of our past, present, and our future. Who who convinced us that secularism was the way to go for the future, right? That a separation of church and state might be needed, right? The left did that. Liberalism did that. Um, who then convinced you that, besides not having a state religion, besides being secular, that we should incorporate many different religions now inside of where we live? The left did that. Multiculturalism. Uh, who told us that now that these other religions are here, that you should go out of your way to not be Christian? The left did that. Who tells us that the family structure is inherently patriarchal and therefore evil? The left. Who tells us that whites have no history, that the United States has no culture? You don't deserve to have pride in who you are. The left does that. Who tells us that whites should not have children, that you should be celebrating the single life? You should. Who tells women that you should be pursuing a career, and if you're not pursuing a career and you're having children or you know embracing your own femininity, that you're scum? The left does that. Who tells men to stay at home and invest yourself, make sure you have no ambition, don't fight? You're a defective female. The left does that. The left tells us that. Who says to sit around on the dole? The left does that because you're easier to control. The left is responsible for all these things. And that's why I feel that when you look at the woes that 2017, the current year, faces for us as Westerners and whites and so forth, as Christians, it's all rooted in leftism. And maybe some of these things didn't start out that bad. The rise of secularism, the counter-reformation to Protestantism, I understand some of these things may have been necessary. And although I am not a secularist, I used to be a secularist. I used to think, the state doesn't need to interfere with religion. It doesn't need to be there to bind culture together. But I've changed my mind. I think that the state needs to take an active role in at least boosting culture. Maybe we don't need a church attendance day. We don't need anything like that. But the state has to do something to give people value, to insert within us things that give us pride. When Charles the Hammer defended, I know I come back to that a lot, but he's just a perfect historical example. When Charles the Hammer defended what would become France from from the Mohammedans, he wasn't doing it because of his wokeness, right? He wasn't doing it because, oh, he loves his white skin so much. He wasn't doing it because the Jews are somehow involved. He was doing it because he had to defend his people, his tribe, his Frenchmen, and his Christians against this invading force, which had ran roughshod over Africa and Iberia. And if he fell, he knew what would happen to his children. But by this time, by the time of the Battle of Tours, it was already known what was going on in Iberia and Africa. That all the talk of, oh, the Muslims would often say, we are a successor of Christianity. We're just like you, right? And that got a lot of sympathy, frankly, in Africa. They didn't have to do major battles across Africa. They did, but they were able to successfully incorporate those people and convince them that we're not all that bad. And then when it came to Iberia, well, the reason Iberia fell, even though they had larger armors, frankly, than the Mohammedans did, was because they turned on each other. They didn't see the threat that Islam was, right? They didn't see it wasn't that external. They betrayed their king at the final battle at Granada. And then after that, they just all the different dukes and petty kings just kind of fell one by one swiftly to the Muslims. By the time they reached France, it was known what they do. No, they're going to tax you, right? They're going to take your sons. They're going to rape your women. They're not going to let you be Christian. They're going to despise you. Charles knew that. He wasn't fighting for white people. He was fighting for his nation. He was fighting for God. And the left has robbed us of our history. They rob us of our present forces by, again, destroying the family, destroying the gender roles, destroying the hopes and dreams of men and women, putting us in conflict with each other, constantly subverting what we want to do. And it makes us useless. It makes us weak. They've bled us of testosterone, which I think is largely why people look at former pagans and they think, well, these people had, frankly, they had spunk about them. They were fighters. The men were men. The women were women. And they would rise to these various challenges. And we have been so taught to reject our past and to reject our culture, to reject who we are, that's when people start looking at, oh, we have to go before the Christian era. We have to go before Rome. We have to go before all these things. Like, there's nothing that the past 2,000 years can teach us about who we are. That's falling into the leftist trap. The left robs us of our future with demographics. If the left can't convince us to outright annihilate ourselves on the battlefield with a nuclear holocaust, then they will convince us to breed ourselves out of existence. Because yes, demographics do matter. They will convince women to not have children. They will convince men to stay home. They will convince women to become men and men to become women. They will convince you to abort your children. They will literally convince you that it's okay to literally sacrifice your children, your future, genetically, metaphorically, spiritually, the future of the West, to kill it upon the altar of freedom. That's the left's argument for abortion. Okay? So I don't care. I don't care so much about the 1488 crowd, the NatSoc crowd. Frankly, I've just recently posted a video of the 16 points that Vox Day wrote. And no, it's obviously not a hard code. It's not written to be academic, but those are 16 areas the alt-right stands for. Frankly, I think they incorporate all the good things of the alt-west and the alt-white together. The 14 words are in there. You know, the securing an existence for whites and our children, that's in there. What else can you take? What, National Socialism? Is that really what the West needs? Anti-Jew rhetoric, the 1488. Yeah, you've woken a lot of people up to the fact that Jews can be a very sinister force. They control a very disproportionate amount of influence in our country, economic power, cultural power. They do that. Is that subversive? It is subversive. But what do you want to do about it? Bemoaning it isn't going to do anything about it. Saying the Jews did this, the Jews did that, it's useless. Here's what you can do about it. Your enemies, and this goes with Christianity as well, in the face of the Muslims, in the face of Judaism, in the face of all these things, you have to live your life. And it's not fun. It can be very detrimental. I know that. I know what happens if you try to stand up to your parish, right, or to your priest, or your we call them priests and pastors, but your preachers if you're Protestant. You will be ostracized. But take solace in this. Jesus never said it would be easy to follow him. He said the exact opposite. He said, if you follow me, your friends will hate you. Your family will hate you. Right? Because you are living the life of the righteous person. Following God's will is not easy. But you have to do it. You have to rise. That is a challenge that all of us have to face as individuals. And you will, when you face it, you will be alone, physically alone. The left does that. Evil forces do that, whether it be demons or whether it be some leftist that's your boss. People will stand in your way. And another reason why I hate leftism so much is, a person cannot have two masters, right? You can't be both a theist and an atheist. You can't be both a rightist and a leftist. You can't be an American and a Brazilian. You can't be an American and an Italian. Where is your loyalty? Because those things will be split. You have to choose who your tribe is, who your nation is. And because of that, thinking who is your master, who does the left serve? I truly think that many leftists serve evil. Many of them don't. Leftist people are not bad people, not necessarily, but they have been duped in a bad way. I often think of the guy that wrote Rules for Radical. Saul. That's his name, Saul Alinsky, right? Who did he pledge his work to? And this is the thing this is the manual that leftists use in the modern era, right? Rules for Radicals. Who did he pledge it to in the beginning? He said to the first radical, Lucifer. Okay? That's who he pledged his work to. That's what he pledged his life to. So I do think is objectively evil. I know it's physically evil by what they do, by sponsoring all these objectively evil things of demographic decline, convincing you that you're weak and nothing, convincing you to kill your children, convincing you to disappear and that you're meaningless. That certainly doesn't sound godly. That certainly is not just or virtuous or good. So they serve evil. You can't serve two masters. So what do we do about these things? Well, YouTube's under attack. I know everyone's bemoaning censorship right now. I didn't know this is a new thing. Apparently it's a new thing. I don't make any revenue. I don't know anything about that. But in your everyday life, you have to stand. If your pastor is talking about the virtues of social justice and how you as a white Christian must value tolerance, equality, diversity, you need to tell them that those are not the Beatitudes. If you're Catholic, those are not the Beatitudes. That tolerance, equality, that these are not Christian virtues. And that maybe inadvertently, maybe he truly thinks these are good, right? Because they promote peace. Theoretically, they promote peace, even though we know that diversity plus proximity equals war. But your pastor will tell you that, I'm just trying to do all the good I can, right? Peace and love and all that other nonsense. But you can show them that you are serving a false god when you do that. You are not serving the Christ. You are not being a shepherd to these people. If you're Catholic, you can say that. If you're Protestant, you can say that. You have to walk out. And yes, people will despise you. Why do people, how did we get in the position where we're in, right? And here's why I'm not so big into the whole, wokeness, like I'm just going to start making videos about how my white skin is beautiful and important. What goes in that white skin, right? Why are you beautiful? What gives meaning to those things? Because frankly, if all we do is focus on the Jewish question and our white demographics, you're not going to solve the problem. You won't. We will be in the exact 30 years from now, we will be in the exact same position we are right now. And why is that? Because those whites don't have culture. You have nothing to stand on. You will be convinced that, okay, we got our birth rates up. Great. What does that matter? What God do you serve? And the Muhammadians will come once more, and when they show testosterone, they will take your women. When they show that they have truth compared to your relativism, they will persuade your children. You have to focus on the game. The left is the game. Do your part. You have to fight them. And I know this is going to be difficult, and I can't be there with you, God willing, I'm just about done with my legal career. I'm going to be taking the bar in probably about a year and a half from now. I'm in the wrap-up phase of my education. I know what it's like to stand before a principal. I know what it's like to be downgraded on a paper. When I was in college a decade ago, I was downgraded on papers. I was downgraded on a history paper by my feminist professor, who literally downgraded me because I had the audacity to say that Lysistrata was a comedy. There's dialogue in this ancient dramatic piece about a bunch of Greek women who become soldiers, and they're essentially taking men's roles. And one of the lines in the piece is, "Oh, I'd be out on the battlefield much more quickly if I could just finish up and give birth. Quickly, somebody hand me a helmet to give birth in." Right? It's supposed to be a comedy that the women can't get their act together, therefore they're not soldiers. That women do women roles and men do men's roles. And when I commented that in the paper this is supposed to be a comedy, the teacher wrote literally on my paper and gave me a negative score because of this. She downgraded it. But she wrote, "Maybe if you were giving birth in a trench, you wouldn't find it that funny." And this is my history professor, right? This is the woman who is supposed to be imparting me with the glories of culture and Western civilization, and to know where I come from and where we're going, right? So I understand that. I had a Marxist professor when I was writing my thesis, and he inadvertently, remember, this is when I was a rhino, and I was standing in the hallways outside the classroom, talking to a friend of mine, and Sarah Palin came up. Again, this was a decade ago, and I said I like her. I think she's an interesting character. I don't know what she's going to do politically, blah blah blah. And out comes walking the professor, and he stares at me blankly, and just says, "You're not serious about that, are you? You're not serious that you like Sarah Palin?" And I was taken aback because I could see the threat that was coming, and I just said, "Yeah, I do." And he downgraded me on my thesis. I had to get a new thesis professor. And it didn't help that when I then went to his room to complain about a grade he had recently given me that I thought was pretty much on target, he had literally Soviet Union Marxist posters in his office. Again, he's a leftist. Long story short, I changed class. I got a new professor who was open to me, and he warned me he's a Marxist. That other guy was a Marxist. So I can't be there with you when you talk to your priest. I can't be there with you when you talk to your teacher, your professor. I can't be there with you when you talk to your friends. And these are the kind of things that may end friendships. It's not good. It's not pleasant. But it's necessary work. And when you do that, when you go through the pain, you will emerge a better person. Because you will be a man or a woman that is able to stand for something. And you will know that. Maybe you're young and in college. Maybe you're recently stumbling into the alt-right. Maybe you're a libertarian, whatever. If you're a rightist at all, you have to stand up to the left. You have to stand up to the evil that is in your life. Because why I am a Roman Catholic who is actively, practicing his faith, why I am in the alt-right where I am, is that I follow truth to the best of my ability. Because I know that when I follow truth, the truth will set me free. Part of the energy I have after the election of Donald Trump is that, everyone's talking about high energy. I even made a video a while back about saying how high energy I am and how amazing everything is in my life, is because now I know what I can stand for. I don't just have facts, right? It's not just I can point to a graph and show you why demographics are declining. It's not just, it's even more than prayer. I have truth with a capital T. And all truth, I believe, stems from the divine, stems from God. So I am following that as best as I am able. I will oppose Pope Francis when he is wrong, and he is often wrong. And we've had many bad popes in the past. We will have bad popes in the future. He is just one more. Add one more to the heap. So stand. Get on to Gab. Ditch Twitter. Get on to Gab. Throw some tweets out there. Make a video yourself. Make a blog. Find little ways of red pilling your friends. Because I will tell you one thing that leftists despise, right? We on the right, well, especially those of us that are analytical, we like dialectic, right? We like logic and reason and talking to each other and arguing facts and points and merits and all those things. What the left does is they argue rhetoric. They argue from emotion. And they do it because that's what their focus is. That's the only thing they know how to do. And so because of that, you can't throw out facts at them. You can throw any dialectic at them you want. It's not going to convince them. What convinces them is emotional pain, rhetoric. You have to punch it, right? It's the same with a leftist trying to convince a rightist, right? They will throw rhetoric at you. They will throw feelings. They will throw racism at you. They will throw all these things that you look at and you laugh at. Why are you laughing at it? Because that's not how you analyze the situation. You look at dialectic. You look at data to draw conclusions. So we are in two different worlds right now. And the way to convince a leftist who you think can become a rightist is through emotional pain. Leftism is inherently weak because of that. Because it derives from emotion, it is inherently weak. So you cause them emotional pain by ostracizing them, by not hanging out with them, by showing that you are stronger. And when they come at you with emotional pain, saying how bad you are, how evil you are, how they don't want to hang out with you anymore, that's when you stand firm and say, then so be it, because I know that I'm right. That will cause them pain right there. That will cause them doubt. It's not pleasant. It's not good, but it's necessary. Um, you have to do what you can now to save us. I am asking you to save us. I will do everything in my can. People do whatever they can. Uh, Vox Day does what he can. He made Infogalactic. He has a good alt-right blog. Ramsey Paul does what he can. Jared Taylor does what he can. Richard Spencer does what he can. Millennial Woes does what he can. David Serini does what he can. I'm asking you, the listener, right now, to do what you can in your own life, because it's going to take all of us to truly save the West, because we were robbed. We are being robbed. And it doesn't have to be. Christendom can come back. But the way Christendom comes back is by living your faith. You have to live it. You can't give simple platitudes. You can't say, I go to church on Easter. Isn't that good enough? No, it's not good enough. You can't say, well, can't I just sit around jacking off all day? Because I'm sure someone else will do it. What kind of a dad can I be? I'm not meant to be a father. You are meant to be a father. That's what you are meant to be, a mother. You can be these things. And it's up to you. If the country is saved, if our tribes are saved, if our nations, if you want to rally around God, you must rise to the occasion. So I'm just bemoaning that point now. So I will leave you all with that. Don't let yourself be robbed. Fight for the right. Fight for what you know is true and godly. And stand by each other. Contribute how you can, monetarily, with your voice in your everyday life. That's all you can do in the end. But you can do it. At least try. So I'll talk to you guys later. Bye-bye.